Is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Garland, for being here today. Every time I'm in my district, constituents are concerned about the weaponization of government, them being selected because they happen to be conservatives. And I think on your watch now, the DOJ actually is a mid-30% approval rating. And, you know, every time the DOJ goes after Trump, he goes up in the polls. I think the American people are starting to wake up to what's going on, and I think it's fairly obvious. And the first question I have is, I understand now that we know that thanks to an FBI whistleblower, that the FBI received information on Americans from Bank of America. Specifically, Bank of America sent the FBI a list of customers who made transactions in the days on and around January 6, 2021. My question for you is, did the Department of Justice acquire any geolocation data from January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2021? Yes or no?
I'm sorry, did you say locational data?
Geolocational data.
Geolocational, I believe everything that was done with respect to geolocational data was disclosed in the public filings in the January 6 cases. I don't have that at my fingertips, but this is a matter of public record.
Do you remember any specific analyses that you may have done with that data?
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
Any specific analyses that you may have gotten from that data? Was there anything particular you were looking for, Mr. Attorney General? Like, did they exercise their rights? Did they maybe buy a firearm?
I'm sorry, I don't know anything about the second thing. The purpose, as I understood of the location data, was to determine whether people who claim they weren't inside the Capitol actually were inside the Capitol.
Well, where did the, I guess the question is, to your knowledge, and where the DOJ, geolocation data from external sources, entities, or organizations, to your knowledge, did you receive that from external sources, or are you buying that data?
So I don't know the exact answer in general, but I believe with respect to January 6th, these were the results of subpoena as issued to telephone companies.
So you subpoenaed the telephone companies and they got the data?
Well, they require, this requires orders authorized by the court.
Does it concern you that, you know, we talked about Durham's report earlier, that he said that the FBI's activities were somewhat sobering? Does that worry you on your watch, that the activities of the FBI have been called sobering now?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand. Who calls it sobering?
John Durham in his report. Did you read his report?
I'm sorry, who?
John Durham.
Durham?
Yes, sir.
I did read the report. All those events had to do with the Crossfire Hurricane investigation. Is that what
that was part of it, yes, sir?
Yes.
Were you concerned when he said it was sobering what the FBI was doing?
I think Mr. Durham, and I just want to make sure everybody understands, Mr. Durham thanked me for not interfering with this investigation. I had promised he would be able to go forward without interference, just as I promised Mr. Weiss. Mr. Durham's, and I did not interfere with his report. His report reported a lack of analytical rigor and a number of other problems with respect to the investigation. I think both the Inspector General made a similar comments, and Director Wray has made the same.
Thank you, Attorney General. I don't have a whole lot of time. I want to yield a little bit to the chairman, but is it a crime in the U.S. to question an election?
I'm sorry.
Is it a crime in the U.S. to question an election? Is that a crime?
I'm sorry. It's my fault. I can't hear. To request a what?
Is it a crime to question an election in the United States of America? It is a crime. Is it a crime for the U.S. citizens to say, we want to ask about this election, we want to question this election, we actually want to look into the election? Is that a crime when citizens just question an election in America now?
Again, I think you're asking not a hypothetical, but something specific about specific.
I think that's just general. I don't think that's specific. Elections have been questioned for decades past. Is that now a crime in America?
Did you say to ask questions about an election? Is that what you said?
To question an election. Just to
no,
question the result.
It's not a crime to question an election.
Because I questioned the election results in 2020. And there are a lot of people in America that do. And they question the weaponization of government attacking American citizens. And so you, sir, have an issue with trustworthiness of the American people and with Congress at this point. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, I'll yield 36 seconds.
No problem. Mr. Garland, did you consider, I just want to go back to this question, did you consider anyone else when David Weiss requested special counsel designation on August 8th?
No, Mr. Weiss asked to be made special counsel, and I did not consider an alternative. Of course, to have put in an alternative would have greatly disrupted an investigation that was already ongoing.
I want to be clear. He was the only one under consideration. It was either no special counsel or if there was a special counsel, it was going to be the guy who presided over the investigation for the previous 5 years?
I thought about the possibility, what the consequences would be, both of not appointing him and trying to find somebody else at that time, but there was no other.
And you had no concerns. I mean, the whistleblowers have brought forward all kinds of concerns. Earlier, when someone brought those up, you said, well, those are allegations. I think they stand up well. They've been cross-examined for 4 hours by Democrats in the Oversight Committee. But there were two facts that can be questioned. Two facts about the investigation of Hunter Biden. Fact number one, they let the statute of limitations run. They let it expire. And fact number two, the plea deal fell apart. So I just wanted to make clear that the guy who presided over all that was the only guy under consideration for special counsel designation. Is that right?
Mr. Weiss is a person known for high integrity, for great experience in the prosecutorial realm, and he was appointed by the president.
That's fine. You can say all that. I appreciate what you're saying there.
I have no doubts about his abilities in this area.
He was the only one under consideration.
The question was whether to appoint someone, and I thought, I will say, what the consequences would be of trying to switch horses in midstream, but I did not consider any other person.
On July 10th, he wrote Senator Graham, and he said, I've had discussions with departmental officials. He said, I haven't sought special counsel status, but I've had discussions with departmental officials. And I don't know if this was asked earlier, who did he talk with then?
I'm sorry, you're talking about the letter that he sent to
Senator Graham on July 10th.
Again, I'm not going to get into internal deliberations of the Justice Department.
Okay, fine. Is there one person, though, who's like the point person at the Justice Department for David Weiss as he now is functioning as a special counsel in this investigation?
Mr. Weiss is now subject to the special counsel regulations, which require urgent reporting under certain circumstances, require him to consult with numerous places within the Justice Department.
Fine, you follow the statute. God bless you. That's where it's supposed to happen. But you said there's reporting. Who does he report to?
Again, I'm not going to get into
this. Is it you?
I'm ultimately responsible.
Is it the DAG?
Mr. Weiss did not have to report to anybody. He was the supervisor and decision maker in these matters.
Okay. We have votes on the floor. We're going to have to take another break, Mr. Attorney General. We'll get back here as quick as we can, and we'll start with the Democrats.
Sure.
Yield back to the gentlelady from Indiana.
Will the gentlelady yield?
I need to get to my question. Sorry.
All right.
Attorney General, you had a very moving statement about your grandparents coming here from Belarus to live in the country without fear of prosecution. I grew up in a very similar country, Ukraine now, and when I came here as a young person, I believed in the value as an American not to be afraid of my government. But I wanted to tell you, and I want to share with you and get your thoughts on that. Are you aware that a lot of Americans are now afraid of being prosecuted by your department? Are you aware about that? Are you aware of that? I'm just saying, are you aware or not?
I think that constant attacks on the department and saying
it's not attacks. Well, let me give you an example.
I don't know.
We talk about January 6th. People.
I'm sorry?
Here, there some people came on January 6th. There probably were some people that came on January 6th here, that had bad intent. But a lot of good Americans from my district came here because they are sick and tired of this government not serving them. They came with strollers and the kids, and there was chaotic situation because the proper security wasn't provided. That's a question that was answered really why. Why we debated for 45 minutes on the floor and didn't stop the debate after the people broke into the Capitol. But these people came, they were throwing the smoke bombs into the crowd with strollers with kids. People were showed up, FBI agent to people's houses. You had in my district, in my town, FBI phone numbers all over the district. Please call that. People are truly afraid. I just want to make sure if you're not aware that you are. And this is a big problem when people are afraid of their own government. And I'll share some other things. We're talking about justice system. I don't question, you're probably not a bad person. I don't know you, but I'll tell you, you're in charge of the department. And people right now feel, I look at Durham report and I call on the FISA violations of queries of millions of Americans, right? It's like KGB, but when I read Durham reports, we have this, you have a nice playbook. First, let's have a special counsel, and then you don't have to answer any questions here. Then, let's extend slow walk investigation on Hillary Clinton, on Hunter. Everything is slow walk. We were very quick on Donald Trump, but you were very slow walk. Then, by the time that investigation and its statute of limitation expired, and all of your agents need to be tested for amnesia. No one recalls anything. Okay, you probably should have as part of your hiring policy. So no one held accountable, which was egregious what happened, in that report. When I read about them, I can't believe it happened in the United States of America. This is my frustration. I'll be honest with you. Then, it's very interesting, regardless what it is, even people in Obama administration raised concerns. How can President's sons be serving on, corrupt Ukrainian oligarchs? Do you understand that it actually can undermine the one Ukrainian effort and policy? I think these concerns were raised. The Obama administration didn't do anything about it. These people are dying right now, and Americans don't trust this president. So I want to ask you one thing. I don't need answer because I know you're not going to, but I think you're probably a good American and you care. And a lot of these people are so afraid they cover up this stuff, I think, in your department because they're embarrassed that what we became as a country to say that what our Department of Justice became. That allows Russians to do propaganda in Chinese. It allows them to destabilize our country. That is danger to our republic. It is significant danger. And I have just one more question from you. I agree on corporate crimes and FISA stuff, even with Democrats, that we need to do a better job. One more question for you. Do you believe that, you talk about rights to vote, but do you believe that only U.S. citizens should be voting in this election and doing anything to make sure